Started. All right, so let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, guys. My name is Claudio, and I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that District 97 accepted our invitation to our show. Guys, welcome to the show, man.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I think Leslie's here now.
Oh, is she? Okay, cool.
Yeah, she's coming. So the first question is: were you born in a musical family? How were you when you perhaps began taking, I don't know, piano lesson or guitar lesson? In your case, drum probably.
Yeah, my father was a musician, not professionally, but he was very passionate about music. So I would observe him working on his own music. He had like a very little home studio, and he listened to a lot of music that came to influence me quite a bit. The Bruford album, One of a Kind, was an album that he constantly had on rotation. So I must have heard that, probably, hundreds of times in my most formative years. So yeah, there was a lot of music around.
Were you in any band? Feel free to turn your camera, Leslie, if you have one. Were you in any band, like in high school?
Yeah, I actually formed my first band when I was about 12 years old, and it actually had a direct through line to District 97 because it featured our founding bassist, Patrick Mulcahy, who at that time, we called him our singer, though he mostly was just shouting. But he also came from a highly musical background. His parents are some of the top brass players in the world, so he, once things got more serious later on, he became an incredible bass player.
All right, there he is, man. How you doing, Leslie?
What's up, Jim? Well, that's Jim there.
Oh, okay, because he says Leslie, that's why.
Okay, I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, so how are you, man? I don't know if you can hear us.
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm here. Yes, I hear you.
How are you? How you doing, man?
Doing well.
So,
how are you?
all good, man. So eventually, you guys finished high school. You knew back then that you wanted to be a musician, or of kind of your parents told you, well, forget about music. You're not going to make any money. Go to school,
Yeah, well, my parents were supportive of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just had quite a drive, and by the end of high school, I already knew Patrick and Rob, who the three of us started the band, and then we recruited Jim when we were in college several years later.
Got it. Perfect. Yeah. And you guys started back in 2006, correct?
That's right. So it was Rob, Patrick, myself, and a guitarist named Sam Krahn, who, we kind of just messed around for a couple years, rehearsing as an instrumental quartet quite a bit. Then I started writing music that involved some vocal ideas, and I was singing them, but I knew that I didn't have the vocal chops to really carry bands. So I knew Leslie from the Chicago College of Performing Arts, and then she was on American Idol in 2007, and that got her kind of back on my radar. And when she was back in Chicago, we got in touch, and she ended up joining, and very soon after that, 2 months or so, Sam ended up leaving the group, and we got Jim on board, and here we are 15 years later.
Yeah, how difficult was at the beginning? Were you guys touring in kind of the Midwest or Chicago? You had the opportunity to play in some small places at least.
Jim, you want to take this one?
In the beginning, yeah, the beginning we kind of started off just playing, every few months in Chicago clubs, and then I don't remember how long it was after we released. Was it probably on the first album we did our first tour as a full band, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think we released Hybrid Child September 2010, and our first tour was May 2011. We teamed up with Agents of Mercy, which featured Royna Stolt and Jonas Reingold from the Flower Kings. We did, I think, about 6 shows together around the Midwest and East Coast, and then District 97 finished up at RoSfest in Gettysburg, and that was our first tour. So it was a pretty good experience, and kind of got the ball rolling for other things later.
And then your second album came in 2012, right? The Throwing Machine, right? So
Yeah.
Now, back then, I listened to all your albums and Bandcamp and some. Yeah, Bandcamp was. I noticed a big difference between the first album and the second album. I felt that the second album was more a well put together band, in my real opinion. And I see a lot of progress there. I don't know if you would agree with me, but I see, a more mature band in the second album than the first one.
I certainly would agree, just based on the fact that we had played live so many more times by that
Right.
definitely after our first tour. And as Jonathan said, I joined very quickly after our initial guitarist left, and was learning all that music, some of it like just in the studio, like Jonathan sitting across from me, kind of like teaching me some of these songs that I didn't know very well. So like a lot of that was done without any opportunity to build a live sound and build like a, sort of a style, any sort of like stylistic intricacies. So by the time we had played a lot of this music, and a lot of the music from the second album, we were able to play live before we recorded it. So it gave us like, kind of informed the arrangements and stuff like that, and kind of made it overall, I think, more exciting and more, having that live energy feel to it.
And you guys, after the second album, you were doing produce a self-release album, or you were lucky to sign with a record label that will help you out?
Was it
promoting the?
Yeah, the first 3 albums were released through Laser's Edge, our friend Ken Golden, and the newest one that will be out in October is The Spirit of Unicorn, which is an imprint of Cherry Red, and they also handled the prior couple albums that we've released.
Yeah, Cherry Red Records is a well-run place, and I have interviewed several members from the associated with the record label and promoting. Feel free to elaborate how you end up meeting the legendary John Wetton. That recently was a tribute in I don't know if you know a place in the UK called Trading Boundaries. They did a tribute a week ago, 10 days ago, and a lot of famous people attended that. Some of the people I was lucky enough to have interviews. So feel free how John Wetton knew of you guys and how you met. And
Sure. So when our first album came out, I was kind of just posting on any internet message boards that had like a progressive rock kind of theme, or I thought that the audience might like what we were doing. So I posted our first music video for the song I Can't Take You With Me on the John Wetton guest book on his website. And I didn't know that John was quite active on the guest book. So he saw the video and he really liked it. And I don't know, a little while later, I got an email from him asking to send him a District 97 t-shirt so he would wear it in some promotional appearances. And after establishing it was actually him, I sent the shirt, and maybe a week or so later got a picture back of him in between Mike Mangini and Jordan Rudess, and with our logo blaring out in the dead center. So I was like, wow, he's really, actually backing up his words here. This is really cool. So that just started a correspondence that really was just friendly. But on the album Trouble with Machines we've been talking about, I had a song called The Perfect Young Man, which is kind of like a story song that had both a male and a female role. And our former bassist Patrick suggested I reach out to John and ask him if he'd want to sing that part. and I didn't expect that he would say yes, but he responded almost immediately and was very enthusiastic about it. So he sent us back his contributions, which were perfect for the song, and the following year it grew into a live collaboration that took us around Europe and the US with him. And it would have, it would have continued. We had plans to be on the 2017 Cruise to the Edge as his band, but obviously, sadly, he didn't make the cruise. So, the last, I guess, 5 years of his life, we were lucky to be a part of it.
Good for you, man. And during the time, you guys recorded a live album called One More Red Night, right? Live in Chicago in 2013 or so, which is a very good album, actually. I listened to it last night as I was putting the question together for this interview. It's a very good album, man. I really like the stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, that was our last show that we did with him, so it's glad it was captured.
Yeah, and then so back then in 2013, before we go into 2015, you guys were touring a lot. You went to Europe a couple of times. You were touring the United States. Were you making like you were like a survival level, or you were working enough to, pay the bills, and you were, I don't know exactly in which venues you were playing Chicago. If you were playing, for example, here in the DC area, or you were playing in the United States more in the Midwest?
Jim, you want to
Sure, yeah,
this?
we mostly toured. We have played in the DC area. We mostly tour on the East Coast because all the cities are close and stuff. So we do that. We've done that pretty much every year or two for the last 15 years. Without the pandemic in the middle there, which kind of made touring impossible. So what was the beginning part of the question?
You were, I said that you were touring now in United States a lot more. Were you at a survival level? You were making enough money to live on your own and pay the bills, and hire a tour manager and all that kind of stuff?
Well, we're all everyone in the band is a working musician, so we kind of like District 97 is maybe like one of 4 or 5 things we all do musically that pay the bills.
I got it. Yeah.
But it is a nice. I think early on we struggled a little more, but since we've gotten our subscription service happening, and since we've kind of gotten a little bit of a name recognition thing happening out there, and we've been able to do the cruise, like Jonathan said, and the different festivals. We do a little bit better now. The fans help us out a lot supporting our albums, which means we don't have to pay out of pocket, which then is recouping a lot of money, which takes years and years to do. So I think we do pretty good as a small business band. And Jonathan's the CEO and manager, and he does a great job.
All right. I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Jonathan. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, we just actually got news of a grant today that we are going to receive. So I'm always on the lookout for things like that. But also, just to answer your question about where around DC we've played, we did Jam in Java with John Wetton back in 2013. We've also done Orion in Baltimore quite a few times.
Yeah, got it. Believe it or not, Jam in Java is like it's in Vienna. It's about 20 minutes from the house. So right. I didn't know you guys back then, but I go to that place a lot. There are so many clubs here in the DC area. It's unbelievable. I mean, because I live in the border between Maryland and DC. There are, I don't know, 50, 100 venues here that you guys can play. All the big names play here, and since the income per capita here in DC is much higher, I think in general every band comes this way. And I literally mean every band. So I'm a very lucky guy that I'm able to see, I don't know, 40 or 50 shows a year. Smaller places, bigger places, and so forth. So, like I told you, I don't know if I told you, Jonathan, but I don't play any instrument. I don't know how to read music, but I've been listening to music, I don't know, 1 or 2 hours a day for the last 50 years. I have a big music collection. I grew up in Latin America, in Chile, and I came to the United States to study. And my dad had, an obscene amount of music. So I began listening to music when I was literally a baby. And of course, the old progressive band, the Genesis, the you know, Pink Floyd, the Led Zeppelin of this world, man, and so on and so forth. And how difficult it was for you guys before we start talking about the new album during the pandemic, digamos, because you couldn't tour, you couldn't meet, you couldn't rehearse, and so on and so forth. So how difficult it was for you guys?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. One thing we did to kind of keep a presence out there was assembled a live album as well as collection of various stray tracks that was released in March of 2021 called Screenplay. It's a 2 CD set that I think is a pretty nice retrospective sort of release that just give a general sense of what we do. Another thing I spent a lot of time on was the Ghost Girl animated music video, which I think turned out really well. Ghost Girl is a track from our previous studio album Screens, and that took a good 8 or 9 months to develop from start to finish. So like from January through September 2020. We also did something called the Virtual Screening Tour, which was like a live stream of a show that was recorded in Belgium in 2019, and some podcasts and stuff. So actually we recorded a song too remotely and a bunch of demos. So we did manage to kind of keep some momentum going through that, but it's definitely good to be able to meet in person now without everyone being scared to death.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, in this country, I don't want to get into politics, but a lot of people didn't make it, unfortunately. So, we are very likely to be alive, man. So, I was listening to the last album, The Stay for the Ending, and last night, and I really like it. It's an excellent album, man. Congratulations, man. And I've been very lucky that a lot of record labels send me music for my podcast and the program that you do, and I own some radios. And it's a very well put together album. How long does it take for you guys an album? What's how you guys now that the COVID is over, you guys live in the same area? Are you able to get together every weekend or whatever when you're not touring to practice, write new song? What's the creative process like for you guys?
Well, we do all live in the greater Chicagoland area, which makes it really convenient when we do need to get some a little farther out than others, but all within an hour of each other. So as far as how long the album takes to record, I mean, I think we've been working on that music since like during the pandemic, which definitely helped this time around recording the album, because we kind of had a dress rehearsal to record some of these tracks where we did demos of them from our own home studios. And so kind of, I think, at least I know I and Andrew definitely had a great game plan of all the things we kind of had in mind that needed to be added. So once we started playing together again, we kind of rehearsed a little bit. We did a tour so that was last year, right? Last fall, summer, late summer. When was that?
Yeah, that was October 2022.
Right. October. So last October, we toured again, and then went into the studio at the end of the year, like November-ish. And what we usually do is we record drums and bass as much, drums being the priority. We try to get as much drums, bass, and maybe some guitar together live in initial tracking as we can. And then once we feel like every song's been captured on the drums at the very least, we move on, and then it's on everybody else's kind of own schedule to fix, to add in their parts and overdubs and solos and stuff. And I'd say it took me about three months of 10 guitar sessions of about 4 to 6 hours a day to get the records done. And a lot of that's experimentation, which is fun, but a lot of that's just having to play the parts over and over again until they sound good and right. Pretty difficult music. But and then I think the best part about this recording process was that we went with an engineer in town in Chicago that a lot of us could be at the recording sessions and the mixing sessions and
I
kind
see.
of
Yeah.
give instant feedback rather than having to do it over email and everyone listening from a different, pair of speakers at home. So being all in the same room, hearing the same thing, being able to react, I think we all just were very much on the same page as far as, yeah, this should be a little louder. This should be a little quieter. What if we made this, crazier sounding? And I think it turned out great because of that, because we didn't have to do as much. Our opinions separated not only by our different experiences listening to it, but also by like a long distance mixing process.
And that person did the mastering as well, the recording and the mastering in the same studio in Chicago. Oh, that's great.
And he was the engineer on the record too, so he was involved the whole time. Noam Wallenberg from Rax Track Studios here in Chicago.
Yeah, I wish we had met him earlier. I mean, we've worked with great people in the past too, but I think Noam's skill set just translated very well for what we were trying to do, and in a number of different ways. So I hope that we keep collaborating with him.
Yeah, good question there. What make, in your opinion, why the guy was so good with you guys? That you said, well, I wish we had met him earlier.
Yeah.
We could,
Yeah, well, one example, like when we were recording the drums, for instance, he took it upon himself to tune the drums in an extremely hypercritical way, I guess, to get the best possible sound captured. And I'd never had an engineer do that before. Like I was not really thrilled with the way my snare drum sounded on the prior album, and I had expressed concerns about it during the session, but it was kind of like, oh, I think it sounds all right. So it's like, all right. So I went along with it, but like this time, Noam was so fastidious, tuning the bottom heads, and I was just really impressed with his attention to detail. So that's one example from drum tuning. But then on the other side of the fence, well, I thought he was also good at just like handling the different personalities of the five of us and getting the best out of everyone. And his approach to mixing was pretty much totally in tune with what we were wanting to hear. Whereas in the past, sometimes we get mixes back. Sometimes as like a test, other times with the people we were working with, and it would sound good, but just a lot different than I had been expecting to hear. And with Noam, it was like already probably a good 90% of the way there, just from his initial inclination. So that's why,
Good for you. Yeah, it is a complicated process, right? So you can be very good or very bad. Your guys are pretty good, but having a cohesive sound and a good recording session. I mean, it's are two different things. Recording and the mixing are two complicated things and two different things, and it's good to find an engineer who can do both and manage. I noticed I have talked to a lot of record engineers and manage the personality of the three of you or five of you, whatever, because they may want, no, I want my drum to be on top here, and the guitar guy would say, no, your drums are too loud, and whoever is singing, and so you need to be like the psychologist in the room, right? Say, well, let me do my job. All of them screaming out behind the guy when he's mixing, and it's not fun, I suppose. But if you're good at what you do, you can be democratic in listening, but at the end, you're paying him or her to do his job, right? So it can produce a good product, and which is very good. I noticed that you guys did a show in Chicago, and then you're going to Europe, you're going to Italy, you're going to Germany, and you're going to be playing with Steve Rothery band. Wow, that's pretty good. That's very impressive, man. I love that. Feel free to elaborate and where it's coming. I think you guys are leaving tonight. Is that correct, Jonathan?
Well, I'm leaving tonight. I'm doing a little vacation. Just I've never been to Italy, so I wanted to take a little time there.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. So I'll be heading out in a few hours here. Jim and Leslie and Andrew leave in about a week, and our bass player Tim, he and his wife are in London at the moment, and we'll be meeting us in Italy.
I get it, man. Yeah, good. And well, good luck to you guys, man. I know it's tough, but you guys are doing very well, man. And, were you surprised, Jonathan, that when you decided to put the band together? I don't know, in 2016, what I'm sorry, 2006, that you guys will do that well, and after 15 years, you have accomplished a lot, man. Are you happy with your expectation there at the beginning too?
Well, yeah, in 2006, it was really just kind of, something we were doing for ourselves and thought like, maybe our friends will like this and some of the people in the Chicago music community, but
Yeah.
I had no real sense of how to get it out beyond our immediate surroundings. So after we recorded Hybrid Child, and we started meeting some people who had connections to the different movers and shakers of the prog world. So I started to get an idea, like there is like a worldwide network here that might be interested in this. So that was great. I mean, we'd always love to reach a broader audience, but knowing that anything we do will be taken seriously by people all over the world is a pretty special thing.
Yeah, I think in October, it's going to be a prog festival, I think in New Jersey. I think Dave Gessler is going to be attending that. I don't know if you guys are going to be attending that festival or not.
I think you're talking about Prog Stock, which we did last year.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're not going to be back this year, but yeah, maybe next year we'll.
Yeah,
might make sense.
All right. Feel free to elaborate where mention your website and your Bandcamp where people can buy your music and so on and so forth. So.
Sure, yeah. Our website is district97.net, and as Jim mentioned, we have a subscription service on there called the Inside the Vault Club, which you can join on the website. So basically the way that works is if you join up, we send you exclusive music and sometimes video on the 15th of every month. Stuff that no one gets besides the club members. And if you join at one of the higher levels, you also get one exclusive physical release every year. And we just got in copies of this year's release, which is a DVD called Touroween Plus, which is about 2 hours worth of live footage and some other stuff. And so we'll start sending that out pretty soon too. So yeah, for people who really like what we do and want to have a hand in actively helping it be able to continue, that's really the best way to do it, because the stability of the monthly or yearly subscriptions really enables quite a bit of activity.
I got it. All right, man. Good luck to you guys. Good luck with the tour in the fall, and hopefully I will see you playing here in the DC area in the near future, man. You guys are doing very well, man. It was very nice talking to you. Good luck to you, Jonathan, and to fly you guys in Europe, man.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem, man.